Well, there's a lot of initiatives on plastics management around the world today. You have bans on microplastics coming up all over the world. You have bans on cosmetics that have microbeads in them. And there's also bans on plastic bags, on plastic straws, and on Q-tips even. So these are initiatives that are going on all over the world in many different countries. But there are no coordinated efforts to actually put a stop on plastics entering the marine environment. And this is a global problem because the oceans are global commons. There is one regime today that bans plastics, and that's MARPOL. It's an international regime, and it bans the dumping of plastic waste from ships. Now, this has a lot of limitations, the biggest of which is the fact that most of the plastic waste that ends up in the marine environment today does not come from ships, it comes from land. There have been some international initiatives in the last few years that try to limit how much plastics end up in the marine environment. Now, the first one was the Honolulu strategy, and then we had the Rio Plus 20, which wanted to limit how much plastics end up in the marine environment by 2025. And now in 2017, we just had the Clean Seas initiative from UNEP, which is calling for initiatives at all levels. Well, the problems with Clean Seas and all other initiatives that have been done at the international level right now is that they're all voluntary. And there's no way to measure how much progress individuals or industries or countries are making towards these targets. Something that we can compare ourselves to when talking about the fact that these are voluntary measures is the UNFCC, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Now, in 1992, the climate change regime was at the same place where we are right now with plastics. They were asking for voluntary measures and looking for countries to have their own initiatives to try to limit emissions. And this is exactly the spot where we are at with plastics. And this means that if we follow the same timeline, which is 25 years ago, it'll be 2040 before we even get to where we are with climate change right now. And now, climate change might not be the best environmental challenge to compare plastics to because there's a lack of urgency to climate change for a lot of people. Something we can compare ourselves to is that of acid rain or of the hole in the ozone layer. So both of these were environmental challenges that were of a lot in the media in the 1980s, and where it was a bigger sense of urgency, and these regimes were pushed through a lot faster than what we see with climate change. Now, if there's going to be a chance of us having a management regimes for plastics and actually limit how much plastics get into the ocean, and that this happens before 2040, then we actually need to speed up this process, and we need to move on to a better track like that of the Montreal Protocol.